Welcome back, everyone, to another Company Affairs 2 replaycast. This time, as you can see, it's 47 who sent it to replay, and he's going to be playing as the Wehrmacht on Lien Forest. Oh boy, 4v4. His friends are going to be Sachschelle Hamburg. Oh god, these names. RC1262 Scorch and H91L25. Jesus Christ. So that's 3 Wehrmacht and 1 OKW. And on the opposing side, we're going to have Grace Gavin as the Americans, Gambit as the Soviets, another Soviets, 100. Wow. Yeah, we have 47 and we have 100. Cool. And Pookie as the Brits. Alright, Lien Forest. Let's check this out. Well, of course, being Lien Forest, we're going to have some fight over the left-hand town, but not yet. This forest is being taken by some Sturm Pioneers. Looks like there is a bit of a lack of movement from both sides. They're being pretty slow about this. They're kind of afraid of the enemy, and actually 47 went for a mortar second, which is a very good decision in the town, as this will allow him to take care of any machine guns that are in buildings, as we will soon see with this example. Of course, he is also using the mortar to capture some points. That's a very good decision. Right now, the MG is opening up on his engineers that are trying to get some harassment on the left-hand side VP. And he's going for the second mortar, which is, in my opinion, a pretty good decision. Let's actually continue speeding up, because I feel like this game will be pretty long, and I don't want it to be midnight by the time it's over. Anyway, nice flank coming in from both the Americans and the Soviets, pushing back that MG34. But right now, there's more Volksgrenadiers in the rear lines. These Sturm Pioneers will capture the fuel point on the sort of allied side of the map, and right now these Volksgrenadiers should probably just retreat away as soon as possible. In the middle, there's not really much going on. We have a couple of engineers and grenadiers from Sachschelle Hamburg. They're gonna try to push up to the cutoff point, it seems like. In the meantime, the Germans, yeah, they're doing a lot of good harassment. They're both taking the VP in the center and the cutoff point, and then the, of course, fuel point as well, and another cutoff point over here. So they're just getting all that harassment dealt to the enemy territory, and they're also pushing up with these mortars. Third mortar on the field for 47. Okay, at this point maybe it's getting a little bit too much, but I can see what he's trying to do. I mean, it's obvious that people are going to be playing very defensively on the town with a lot of units and buildings, so having those mortars and mortars and machine guns are going to be very, very strong. Just the machine guns to hold them down and the mortars to hit them. The central, of course, fuel point was captured by the Sturm Pioneers, but they were forced away by conscripts that are being pushed around by 100. 100 will be, unfortunately, meeting a bit of a foe with that scout car. Panzerfaust gets fired, and I think he will have to escape as much as possible. His friends on the right side are doing quite well. The allies are recapturing their points pretty easily, but they're going to meet an MG42, and probably these infantry units are going to have to retreat. But there's a nice flank being mounted up by these penal battalion units and the riflemen, so probably these machine guns are not going to have an easy time defeating these enemy units that are using the forest to get around them. And yeah, the mortars are starting to fire. Let's see. Okay, he's firing at the building because he thinks that the machine gun is there, but nicely, Pookie decided to get his units out of the building and try to avoid the mortar fire. That was well done. But at the same time, this is not stopping Hamburg from just pushing up with his infantry, getting some good captures. He's taking a lot of casualties and damage on his units, so he's going to probably have to retreat very soon, but he's bringing up more reinforcements, it seems. He's got a machine gun up here that's not really doing much, but it's definitely looking better for the Germans on the left-hand side than it is on the right-hand side. As we can see, these Volksgrenadiers almost getting wiped. There's a lot of Soviet American infantry on this side that are just plowing through any defense that the Germans are trying to set up against them. And yeah, as you can see, 3 against 1, this Volksgrenadier squad is going to have to escape. Not before throwing a nice incendiary grenade, but still. 222 Scout Car is on the field right now. But unfortunately, the Americans, or rather, unfortunately for the Scout Car, the Americans have rifle grenades on the riflemen. They're up to vet 1. And the Soviets, maybe one day they're going to have PTRS anti-tank rifles. So this could be pretty bad for that 222. There's already some doctrinal picks, it seems, and that's defensive doctrine from Gambit. He's going to go for a Dushka heavy machine gun for the right-hand side. I feel like this is partially meant to counter the Scout Car with those armor-piercing rounds. Although, yeah, the right side doesn't really have any big options for the 120mm mortar. There's just a lot of maneuver warfare around the trees. Well done by these riflemen taking down that 222. Still, the Dushka heavy machine gun, or Dushka as we should be more accurately referring to it, is very, very strong at dealing with enemy infantry, regardless of whether or not there are little tiny scout cars for it to shoot at. And these mortars are just having the field day of their lives. They've got basically half vet per mortar. Not really a lot of kills, but I feel like that number is going to increase soon, especially considering the Soviet player, maybe one day he's going to try to do something on the left-hand side. And these 3 mortars, yeah, they're having a good time. They were a good choice, I would say, because they really are slowly but surely forcing away Pookie from this left-hand side. He's essentially pulling up a lot of manpower. I'm pretty sure because he's not sure what to do with the 870 manpower that he's got in the bank, because he does not know what to do to counter all of these support weapons that he's got around. I feel like he might be waiting to go ahead and get himself some mortar pits, maybe? I feel like mortar pits would have been a very good idea for him, but he waited and didn't really get any mortar pits, so more doctrinal picks are going in. We have Soviet Shock Army for 100, of course 120mm mortar as well, but he's not really rich in the manpower front, so he's gonna have to wait. He's got the shock troops, but again, no manpower. And of course, Papa Shot for his conscripts. These he can get right away. On the Axis side, we already have a Lux on the field from Scorch, and that's pretty good. His buddy over here, Mr. Robot's name, well, he's not really doing all that well. He's got a Tiger Ace Bulletin, so probably gonna go for the Elite Troops Doctrine, as 47 did. Ooh, nice satchel charge, will explode in the trees. 47 also going for the Tiger Ace, and he doesn't have any big sort of tier decisions that he has made yet, despite the fact that he has 135 fuel in the bank. He hasn't gone for any tier 2 or tier 3 options, sorry, tier 3 or tier 4 options, and well, that may change soon enough, but for now he's keeping his options open. He's got the late game, he knows he can do some good stuff, you know, when the time comes. In the meantime, yeah, the OKW, one of them going for the Mechanized Regiment, and of course there's only one OKW, so I'm not sure why I'm talking like that. We have a Tier 2, or rather Battle Phase 2 coming for Robot Name, and Tier 3 on the field for Sachshalle Hamburg, which is of course pretty good because his units are very, very aggressively pushing up. I feel like a Panzer IV would really support his pushes and would be compatible with his playstyle. He's going to get away with these Grenadiers, maybe. Just the last few shots from the conscripts. Will they be able to feed him off? No, they will not. And these conscripts will likely just get gunned down by these grenadiers, unfortunately for them. In the meantime, it seems like some Jaegers are going to get spawned in by 47, getting some STGs on them. Then you should, yeah, either get the Jaeger infantry or the Sturmgewehrs. Sturmgewehrs, though, or the G43s, none of them are going to help you out against the AEC. AEC is getting some pretty good kills on some expensive infantry, and right now I'm not sure what the Axis are trying to do. Well, now I am sure. Anti-tank gun is positioning to get a pot shot off on the AC, but unfortunately for it, the AC will nicely slip away into the cover of this building. So well done by the AC, being quite sneaky, and it looks like 2 of the mortars were destroyed by something. Maybe the AC? Who knows? Definitely whatever it wasn't good for our German players. And right now the anti-tank gun, with the support of these Jaegers, will probably be able to get the last shot. No, they will not be able to get the last shot in on the AC, and the AC will survive. 47 stormtroopers are now trying to upgrade the anti-tank combat package, but they're so close to dying they have to retreat away. These grenadiers, though, could get out of this building and get a Panzerfaust off on the wounded scout car, which they are not doing, and unfortunately their hesitation is going to cost them dearly as the scout car reaches the safety of the Allied base. Right now, yeah, the shock troops will likely be able to execute a few of these grenadiers as they retreat, chasing them down like dogs. On the right side, yeah, nice flank is coming in from these Penals. They're going to be able to get around this machine gun. Unfortunately for them, there's the Lukes around, so they're going to be careful. They're going to need to be careful because this Lukes, once it gets repaired, is going to be in a good position to get behind these Penals and murder them. Of course, here comes a massive amount of Volksgrenadiers also trying to flank with those STG-44s. Probably at close range, these Penals will want to get out, but at medium to long range, the Riflemen will have an advantage, at least with the veterancy that these two units have. Yeah, I feel like the Rifleman veterancy advantage and nice grenade wipes out one of the Volksgrenadiers. Another Volksgrenadier squad almost destroyed, and the whole lot has to retreat away to safety. But Scorch is gonna essentially buy his instrument of revenge right now. He's gonna get the Stuka zu Fuß, and that could be very, very strong at dealing with enemies in the forest. Very, very clumped up. So the Stuka is going to be essentially getting a lot of natural target selections that can be fairly effective. Nice grenade come through on that machine gun. The machine gun will be wiped out by the nice usage of the shock troops. And of course, there's a little bit of extra suppression coming through from the normal infantry, but this allows overall the Allied troops to move up and break the defensive line of the Germans finally. Where are the other machine guns that were covering this entire area? Well, one of them seems to be back at base reinforcing, and the other one probably died. So this is not looking all that good for the Axis all of a sudden on the left-hand side. Despite the fact that they had a massive advantage going on earlier, it seems like they're getting pushed back, especially by the support of this AEC to the British troops. It doesn't seem like really 100 was able to do too much except with his shock troops. So I feel like this is really a problem of the Axis not having enough AT on the field. And right now they're trying to remedy that with these Panzerschreck Stormtroopers and of course the Pak-40 anti-tank gun. Also, likely Mr. Sachschelle Hamburg is going to go for some vehicles at some point. He's got 200 fuel, so he could go for something. And right now, the fact that he has a 29 pop cap, so he's not really all that well prepared to fight, and especially considering that he's got a lot of resources in the bank, is really making me question what he's trying to do, because he could really provide a lot more support for his teammate 47 on this left-hand side, but oh well, we'll see. Right side, seems like the Panzer IV doing quite well, and oh no, these riflemen are getting clumped up, and that's exactly what the Panzer IV wants, and that's exactly what the Stuka wants as well. Looks like we have the Stuka barrage coming through, and a lot of damage will likely follow through on these riflemen, but no, the rockets miss to the side. In fact, also a few of the mines, the anti-infantry S-mines will get blown up by that. Wait, were those S-mines or were those something else? Because I don't see any signs. I don't see any of the retard signs of the warning that this S-mines leave on the ground. So perhaps those were just anti-tank mines from the Rearchland troops. I think that's what that was. Anyway, Gambit now has a very, very well-rounded arsenal of penal battalions, engineers, anti-tank guns, mortars, machine guns. The problem is these anti-tank guns are the 45mm M42s from the defensive doctrine. Even if you go with the defensive doctrine, you should probably avoid relying on these light AT guns. They're relatively okay against enemy light vehicles, but at pretty much every kind of mission, the heavier AT guns are going to be much stronger. So I feel like having the bigger AT guns is just always better. And yeah, he's placing down those. Are these the anti-infantry or the... Yeah, these are the anti-infantry mines. Okay, so I was wrong. Actually, oh, okay. See, I thought it was the Rearchland troops, but no, it turns out he's using the defensive doctrine anti-personnel mines, which is not something I usually see happen. So I guess that's fine. We'll see how those perform. Anyway, left-hand side, Molotovs coming through. Looks like a bit of a present from the foreign minister. And the shock troops are gonna just move in very, very close range. Try to murder these Jaegers. They're gonna do pretty well at that, but unfortunately, some friendly fire. Oh no, that was actually a Bundle Grenade. Just the Bundle Grenade didn't do anything. Will allow these shock troops to have a field day with the remaining enemy forces. Why are you not moving into close range with these Jaegers? I do not know. If they were to move into close range with these Jaegers, they would probably win the fight, but the Jaegers, as it stands, are making short work of the shock troops at long range, which is, of course, their specialty. And right now, the Jaegers are going to have to escape out of this building because they're down to 2 men, and this is an experienced and upgraded squad goes down. It gets wiped. In return, the Axis managed to wipe out an infantry section from the Brits, but I think that the Brits came out on top of that, unless these Germans can capture this Bren, and looks like 47 will cheekily steal it with the Pioneer Squad. Well done. Let's check out the teching for the Allies as a Panther rolls on the field for Sachsschelle Hamburg. And right now, the Panzer IV medium tank has to escape out of that line of sight of the anti-tank gun. Anyway, let's check out the teching for the Allies. We have... Of course, we have company command post upgraded for Pukki. He does not have enough resources to make use of it right now, but he's got a lot of manpower, so may want to go with, well, he's got a couple of anti-tank guns. Maybe he, again, I'm feeling like the mortar pit would be very, very useful for him. I mean, at this point, Panthers being around and all of that make it relatively, I guess, risky to go with a mortar pit because it's going to be very easy for the Axis to take it down, but it's probably useful to get that mortar pit. It could counter most of what the Germans are trying to do with these buildings, these machine guns, even the bunkers that are going down for Sachsenelle Hamburg. Of course, the Katyusha is going to help out with that. We have 100 reaching that tier 4, getting the Katyusha out first. Although I feel like that maybe for him getting out of T-34 76 might have been a better option because the Germans are constantly harassing into this fuel point, which is of course nasty. And in the end, H91 did go with that elite troops doctrine, as expected. So double Tiger Ace is gonna come out for the Germans, most likely. That is to say, pretty dangerous for the Allies. Su-85 on the field for Gambit, and for Grace Gavin, well, we have Stuart on the field, so captain tier, upgraded, lots of riflemen. The Major is around, but he does not have enough resources to go with any kind of major units except for the M8A1 howitzer mortar carriage, which doesn't seem to be in his interests. Massive Stuka barrage comes through and does a lot of damage on that Stuart, but does not hit the main target, which were those riflemen, I would think. Brumbear on the field for 47, and that's, I think, a very good decision, because, I mean, every time I say that about any Brumbears, it always ends up disappointing me, but yeah, the Brumbear is going to be strong against both the British and the Soviets with what they're bringing out, especially considering that the Soviets haven't brought any normal tanks on the field, and even Pukki is going for the Special Weapons half-track, it seems. So Special Weapons Regiment. And of course, the Sturmpanzer, very, very strong against enemy infantry, but 2 anti-tank guns, 2 6-pounders on the field, putting a lot of hurt against them. But we have the counter, we have the Panzerwerfer. Panzerwerfer is going to get a excellent barrage, I would say, doing a lot of damage, but not really wiping out anything. Just barely missing out the wipe on 3 enemy units. That's very unfortunate for that Panzerwerfer. A very, very RNG-focused unit, and looks like on the right side, it's the Allies that continue to just dominate this whole area. They have the entire forest on lockdown, massive numbers of support weapons and infantry squads, holding up these points, preventing the enemy from getting even near the VP. And the Su-85 is now trying to deal with the Schwer Panzer headquarters. The Germans are trying to make a counterattack against it, and they're going to succeed at least in getting some Panzerfausts off on the engine, but the Lux being there is in a very, very bad spot, and the Schwer Panzer headquarters did indeed go down in the end. So while the Germans are pushing on the left-hand side, the Allies are going in on the right, so there's a bit of a yin-yang situation, and if one side goes down, the other one goes up. At this point, it seems like the two allied players on the right side should really start to think about, considering how much they have managed to fortify up the right side, how many infantry squads and support weapons they've got there, and how many wipes they're getting on enemy units, and especially considering that they've destroyed Schwer Panzer headquarters over here, and there's not really much else to do for them in this whole area. I would consider sending in some units to help out their allies on the left-hand side, especially that Su-85, once it's repaired, is going to be very, very strong at least keeping that Panzer at bay. That was an amazing Panzerwerfer barrage. Looks like a second Panzerwerfer is on the field for Stadtschelle Hamburg. So good play for him. I guess that investing those resources into those Panzerwerfers are going to be, those resources are going to be well spent, depending on if you can get some good barrages. And the first barrages were so far relatively good, so that's good for them. And as I always say, the first barrage is quite important because that's when the enemy does not expect it. So that's when you want to do the most damage. Anyway, we have some airstrikes coming through, actually, from the Soviets. It's Sturmovik attacks. We're going to see some more airstrikes, most likely, later on, as we do have the airborne being picked by Grace Gavin. So, of course, P-47 rocket strafe. That's going to be around, and oh boy, we have both the LEFH artillery and the Stukas just absolutely obliterating the woods, doing a lot of damage, destroying, I think, one infantry squad, and right now it seems like these riflemen are pushing along into the Dragon's Den, and this is perhaps a little bit too overzealous. Right now they're going to face the Lukes and the Panzer IV, so that's a lot of anti-infantry firepower coming through on them. In the meantime, in the center, the Brumbeer is trying to help the German troops to push up in this whole area. The enemies are going to be supported by the M3 half-track, getting out those reinforcements and weapons to their allies. Right now, it seems like the P-47s are going to get called in, but they're going to be shot down by the Schwer Panzer headquarters, and one of them is going to kamikaze straight into the Panzer II Lukes, doing a lot of damage to it. So the airstrike's not going to have the best of effects, and it seems like despite the massive artillery barrages on the right side, the Allies still have some units here, so that's good to see for them, but the constant artillery barraging might get to their nerves soon enough. It seems like they even tried to make the big push with those riflemen to shut down those artillery guns. So this could be also a nice way to bait enemy units in and destroy them. It seems like it's exactly what this Panther was doing, baiting in those conscripts. Conscripts taking a lot of damage from these pioneers, and we have a Panther also from 47, so 47 getting his own anti-vehicle forces in motion. It seems like these Jaegers will try to move in, but this is not the best possible spot for them. Not really that big of a fan of the G43s and the Panzerschrecks on the Jaegers. I really like the whatchamacallits, the Sturmgewehren. That was a very good Panzerwerfer barrage, getting the wipe on 2 enemy anti-tank guns, and the Jaegers finishing off a infantry section. Also, an amazing bundle grenade is going to almost destroy another infantry section, so lots of losses for Puki, taking massive casualties. Looks like the Allies, however, are pushing up, and they're also dealing damage to the enemy. We're going to have a nice Katyusha barrage and a Satchel charge to destroy the mechanized regiment headquarters. No, that was actually the battle headquarters. These Penals are pushing up to get a Satchel charge on the artillery gun, which would be a very good decision, and also the Stuka goes down from the Jackson, so this is very, very well done. However, the LEFH artillery gun survives the Satchel charge. That's surprising as hell, and that's going to be a very, very big boon for our Axis players, as they're going to be able to recapture that gun and get it firing on the enemy once again. But a good push from the Allies, taking down the Stuka. Very, very much worth it. However, it seems like on the left-hand side, their friends are suffering because of it, and that's because of the lack of support that's coming through from these two Allied players for their friends. However, a nice rifleman flank, it seems like we'll be able to push into the rear lines of the German players, and also a nice Katyusha barrage is going to obliterate the mortar crews and deal some damage to these grenadiers. In fact, deal a lot of damage to these grenadiers. Only the strafing run from, looks like close air support, will be able to stop the advance of those riflemen that could have gotten into the rear of these tanks and dealt some serious damage with those bazookas and tank grenades. Right now, however, the big Papa Pump is on the field. Big King Tiger for Scorch. Wait, for Scorch? Looks like he's lost Not only his... Oh, yeah, right. He's the guy that built his trucks around here. Anyway, he's going to have the KT. KT very, very strong in sort of these close range environments, as well as the long range of the central area of the map. But the close range is going to really go to its favor because it's going to allow less, I guess, chances of the Jacksons to get into play. Not just the Jacksons. The Firefly is on the field, but the Firefly moved up way too far, and now the Panthers are going to punish it mercilessly, charging in and finishing off the expensive allied tank destroyer. In the meantime, it seems like the Stuart is not having a good day as it's getting chased by two big cats. It's gonna, however, lure them into the Jackson and a lot of mines. So this perhaps could be pretty dangerous for these German tanks to move into. Of course, no mine super support is a pretty bad thing, but luckily for them, they managed to find an Su-85 just kind of showing its bottoms to them. So yeah, that was pretty lucky on the part of these German tanks. In the meantime, in the center, we have a massive push from the Brummbär, getting a lot of kills and damage on the Allied infantry in the area. It seems like these German tanks are moving in, and now they're gonna eat up those mines, but they don't crucially hit the TM-35 Soviet mines. In fact, blowing one of them up with a cannon shot, because those were the ones that could have really damaged the engines and all of that of their big German tanks. The anti-personnel mines not really having the explosive and penetration power to do anything to these guys, and Pookie will get replaced by the AI. It seems like he's gonna quit the game. That's a shame. I mean, he's probably just not... Yeah, he's not even lost all that much. He's still got forces. And he has the special weapon, so he's got the Crocodile to work towards in the late game. He's got the Crocodile. He could have gotten more, of course, Fireflies. The British are really never out of the battle. They're a bit like the Germans in that regard. They've got some very nasty, as the British announcer seems fond of saying, nasty surprises in the late game. Looks like a counter battery from the Katyusha will try to nail that Panzerwerfer, but misses. Gets a little bit of damage on that MG. Let's check out the kills on these Katyusha. We have 4, 11, so that's 15 kills on the part of those Katyusha. But we also have an ML-20 howitzer on the field, so perhaps this is meant to try to deal with the LFH artillery. Although the LFH artillery is much better at dealing with enemy artillery units because of the counter battery that's built in. Whereas, of course, the Soviet howitzer will have to fire where the enemy shows itself to be, which, of course, with a fixed artillery gun, it's like they know already where it is, so no big problem. In fact, some airborne are also moving up. I feel like they tried to get a timed explosive charge, but the Lukes is going to prevent them from doing that, and a grenade will not really be able to do too much to that gun. Big German push in the center, spearheaded by the Brummbär, which is already up to Veterancy 2. However, the Brummbär will find itself relatively outmatched by this Su-85. It will do some damage to it, but without the support of these Panthers, not going to go that well. And in fact, the Panther will unfortunately find itself spotted by the point. Don't move your tanks over points because they spot you. And, ooh, it seems like some bunkers are going down on the left side to protect the VP. And that's a good idea, just to prevent enemy forces from just being able to freely capture that VP. I feel like that's a good decision. Another AC from the AI popping some smoke, and unfortunately that's bad for the for the Su-85. It's good for the Panther, and yeah, they're gonna need to be careful. Although the Americans are pushing in the center. It looks like one Jackson was destroyed. The other Jackson is trying to do some damage to this King Tiger. The King Tiger is very low on HP. Let's see if these penal battalions can spot for the Su-85. The Su-85 gets the killing blow on the KT. Well done. And seems like this Panther will be next. It's taking a damaged engine from something, and these penals are trying to get in to get a Satcher charge off, but it will not be enough. Massive, it seems like zeroing artillery coming down and doing some damage to these allied tanks. Unfortunately for the Allies, it seems like most of their units over here are taking heavy casualties due to the artillery barrages, and now their defenses are really not quite what they used to be. Lots of support weapons strewn about the battlefield, not really being taken up by any side or the other, and one Grenadier squad gets gunned down in the stream as he tries to escape. Still, the Axis have a pretty good stranglehold on the left-hand side, and that's good for them. But they need to repair their vehicles a little bit quicker. It seems like 47 is floating a lot of resources in general. I feel like it's especially important for him to use these resources, especially into pioneers and vehicles, because when he gets the Tiger Ace, this thing costs 800 manpower but no fuel. So you may be thinking, no, it's not that expensive, but it does reduce your manpower income by 25% and your fuel income by 90%. So what you have is what you get with the Tiger Ace. And if you're going into it with like a Panther and a Brim Bear, that's not that bad. But if you're going into it with a Panther, a Brim Bear, and, well, maybe 2 Panthers, a Brim Bear, and a Panzerwerfer, which right now is possible considering the amount of resources 47 has, then that would be much, much better. Of course, you also need a lot of Pioneers to keep that Tiger Ace up and running and, you know, being useful, because the downtime on the Tiger Ace is even worse than on other vehicles. On other vehicles, if the vehicle is damaged and it's not fighting, it's just, well, kind of wasted resources. But with the Tiger Ace, it's also got the massive cooldown penalty, as you can see, or not cooldown, income penalty. As you can see, H91 calling it his own Tiger Ace. He's now at 3 fuel income. So he's not really going to be getting any big vehicles out anytime soon to replace what he loses and what he builds with that 350 that he's got in the bank. So it's very imperative that he uses this thing to the maximum of his potential, because the more it's on the field, the more it's going to cost you, unlike other vehicles that have a fixed cost. Looks like we have yet another engagement on the right side. There's still a burning fire from that Jackson, which might mean that it was killed recently. But yeah, we have the Jackson spam from Grace Gavin. I mean, it's going okay, but he needs to be supporting his allies. Finally, it seems like the AI somehow is doing better than the player, and they're moving up relatively aggressively against the Germans on this side. Of course, this is partially because 47 right now seems to be taking some casualties, and he needs to repair his vehicles. Also, nicely, the allies are using their artillery to suppress the enemies as they're trying to repair their vehicles, which is a very, very good usage of their artillery. More bunkers coming down from Hamburg, and this could be pretty bad. Here comes a Stuka dive bomber, but it will only clip these paratroopers. Very, very unfortunate for it. It seems like the Panther is trying to move in, and there's an Su-85 waiting in line to get some pot shots off on that Panther, but probably nothing will come of it. I say probably. Here comes the Ace for 47. Again, I feel like he should have gone with other units first, but the Ace is on the field, so that's 2 Aces on the field for the Germans, and this is either a big priority target for the enemy or something that you ignore and try to just slow down. As I said, if this thing is not really participating in the fight, aka if you slow it down, if you get some engine damage, if you get some mines on it, it's gonna be very, very, very bad for the Axis. But if this thing dies immediately, it's also pretty bad for the Axis because you cannot replace it. However, the Axis are very, very aggressively pushing up with their Panthers in the spearhead. They're moving in, getting the Tiger and the Brim Bear to support with anti-infantry firepower. And right now, it seems like they're going to try to go for the ML20 howitzer. And the Panther is relatively effective at dealing with this thing if you can get some good shots on the gun itself. But no, it looks like they will only get in to call in the Stuka bombing strike, and that will destroy the gun itself. Right now, the Panther doing what it does best, utilizing its speed and mobility, getting behind the enemy lines and destroying the Katyusha. Very well done. There's another ML20 gun over here, but no more airstrikes left for Sachs-Schelle Hamburg, so he will have to use his Panther. But the Panther is doing quite a bit of damage, and here comes a Stuka Ju-87 strafing run, although, yeah, the Panther will have to escape because of penal battalions coming in. And yeah, Su-85s having to move away from their earlier position on the right side into the center to try to deal with this Panther. I'm not sure what 47 was doing over here. It looks like he's trying to deal with the last remaining units from the Brits, and he's doing a pretty good job at that. But I feel like if he had moved up and supported his ally, this might have been pretty good for him, but that's why, because his Panther was very damaged, so he didn't want to really waste his Panther. And looks like the Cromwell over here from the AI is well, doing a weird dance. What happened to the tank destroyer over here? What happened to the Jackson? Looks like another Jackson was destroyed in the fight, and oh boy, that's pretty bad. Luke's is about to get veteran C5. That's pretty strong for them, and right now the Germans can probably try to get some harassment off on the right side of the map. VP situation very much I guess even, you could say, but the Germans are ahead, and the Germans are winning these engagements. The Germans, after these engagements, are left with 145, 145, so that's 90, 290 pop cap, whereas the Allies are at... Okay, so that's 200. So the Axis getting a big lead when it comes to pop cap, although this Brummbär is about to go down from the P-47 rocket strafe. Can the Allies finish him off, especially with these conscripts? They're going to Ura in and try to get a nice anti-tank grenade off, but unfortunately, there's a lot of Axis units in the way, and the Brummbär relatively quick. These Soviets will not be able to keep up and probably will have to escape away. That's very unfortunate. Here comes also a Panzerwerfer barrage in their escape path, just to add insult to injury. Finally, some support coming from the left-hand side, but at this point, these units were actually needed on the right. Another KT on the field for Scorch, along with the Ace, are going to push up, and there's nothing that the Allies can do to stop these two tanks from getting in, and probably their objective is to destroy this artillery piece and just create havoc. But once again, no infantry support, no line of sight for these tanks, no minesweepers. This is potentially very, very dangerous, so they're going to need to be careful, and in fact, they're getting pounded by Su-85, so they need to be very, very careful and get away as much as possible. M36 Jackson around. Looks like some mines were trying to be planted by Gambit, but they were discovered by the Grenadiers, so not really gonna be easy for them. And yes, so these Su-85s are starting to be spammed by the Allies, but I don't see how the Allies are actually planning on winning this. Like, they're going with a lot of tank destroyers that are going to be okay at, I guess, keeping these German tanks at bay, especially the Tiger Aces. But I'm not really quite sure what their offensive options are going to be. They're losing quickly all of their mainline infantry units, which means that they can't really push up and grab any points. Their defensive positions are compromised from the constant artillery barrages of the Germans. And the Germans have, of course, tank superiority. So it looks like the options are really low for the Allies. And yet another Su-5 showing its rear armor to the enemy goes down to that Panther. And the other Su-5 making a big mistake and pushing right up to the Panther, although very, very ballsy. It's probably not a good idea to do that. And right now, yeah, it seems like a flank coming in from that other Su-85 and some artillery shells that are being fired from the base are going to be enough to let these, or force these tanks to escape. But other than this, I don't think they're going to be able to chase them down because they've only got SUs. That's pretty bad. And it looks like Sachschelle Hamburg will also be replaced by the AI. So now it's a 1-on, or 3-on-3, I guess 1-on-1 in terms of disconnected players. So we're back to even, and it's not like the AI for the Brits has been doing that badly, to be completely honest. It's been harassing the left-hand side very relentlessly. Right now, it seems like the Su-85 tries to come in and finish off the Panther, eats an anti-tank grenade for its troubles. Can it finish off the Panther? If the Panther were to just retreat away, it wouldn't be able to chase it down, but it does not retreat away, and so H91 loses his Panther, and that's devastating because he's still got his Tiger Ace on the field. Because of the Ace, he does not have any resource income, so any unit that he loses is a unit that he's not going to be able to replace, and that's, of course, pretty bad. Lots of Pioneers coming for 47 exactly as expected, and ooh, lots of explosions. Another explosion. Everyone is losing everything. Oh no. When this engagement, I guess, dies down, we have vet free on the Brummbär, 40 kills. Doing quite well. Looks like yet more AI infantry are going to meet their fate at the hands of that 152mm. Okay, so the engagement is almost over. Once it's over, we're going to take stock, but it seems to me like the Allies are losing heavily. Yep, there goes the other Su-85, and the push continues on the south. The AI, this time, Sachschelle Hamburg, with that nice fitted up Panther, and with the support of 2 Panzerwaffes, one of them with 40 kills and one of them with 11 kills. I feel like this AI has got some tools at its disposal. It's actually got one of the best forces. 93 pop cap. Sachschelle Hamburg definitely built up a pretty good fighting force. Anyway, Tiger pushing in, and that's actually 47s. So 47 not making the mistake of the enemy right side players, that is, and ignoring the other side of the map, coming in and supporting his allies. Where, I say, is the Axis attempt at recapturing this right side of the map, this right side VP, because the allies are down to 178 VPs. If they were triple capped right now, which is very, very possible considering the strategic situation overall, I feel like the allies would have 3 minutes. So the allies would have a very, very hard time recapturing these points. They would have a very, very hard time essentially doing anything. Tiger Ace still doing quite well, just kind of kablooing against these conscripts, and at this point it seems like some airstrikes will get called in to try to finish off this Panzerwerfer, which is up to 40 kills. But will the planes be able to get some kills in? I'm not sure. There's an Ostwind around, so the Ostwind could try to shoot down these planes, I guess. Or maybe it's gonna get shot down by these planes. Although, well, he survives, okay. Airborne. Getting some kills on these poor MG42s. Still a little bit of float going on for the Germans, but it's going very well for them. Other than that, okay, let's take stock right on now. We have, well, AI being derp. But other than that, the Germans are at 120, 220, or rather 200 and 280 pop cap, whereas the Allies are at, okay, so they are at 195. So the pop cap situation is a little bit more even, but the Germans have their pop cap spent on massive late game heavy tanks, such as, well, the King Tiger's dead, but the Tiger Aces, the Panthers, and all of that, you're seeing it in action, as you can see. And this looks like the Allies are having a bit of a problem countering it. When the first sort of wave of their tank destroyers was destroyed, they weren't really able to replace it with, especially the veterancy that they lost, they weren't really able to replace that, and that's pretty bad. Although they did manage to get a vet-free SCD-5, which they weren't able to do before. And right now their artillery is still firing into the enemy lines, which is pretty okay. We have some bunkers going up to prevent enemy captures of this VP, which is a very, very good idea. And the Brumbear is still massacring the AI, just absolutely smashing them. Once again, why aren't the Germans going for the right side? I feel like just one tiny little push over here, especially with the Lukes being on the field, this would be very, very easy, would just capture this right side VP and shorten this game by a whole lot. Still think that the Allies don't really have much of a chance at this point. There's just way too much German heavies. And, I mean, yeah, one of them is an AI, but one of the Allies is an AI too. So, things are increasingly starting to look bleak for them. What I would have done in their place was focus more on medium tanks, especially considering that this is Lian Forest. So there's quite a few opportunities to use medium tanks aggressively and flank, get some kills by going behind the heavy tanks. I feel like going with some mediums might have been good for them. I mean, Gavin, I'm not sure what he wanted to do, but I haven't seen if he had rifle company or anything like that. Gambit going with the defensive doctrine, that also could have been different. That could have been T-3485s of some kind. Could have been mechanized support with the Su-152 if he wanted to go with the tank destroyers. Could have been Soviet industry, I believe. He had Soviet industry, so I feel like Soviet industry is just always the best because it's meme. 100, well, he didn't have really any big late game options for medium tanks, but I guess one person going with Su-85s is Always good, always welcome. Pookie could have gone with some comets, supported by one Firefly or two. And that's overall kind of sad that the Allies did not do that more, because that's really the strength of the Allies. And looks like the Jackson will be able to destroy that pesky Panzer II. Finally, taking down that annoying Veteran C5 destroyer of infantry. And, well, murdered. Half-track dead. Not sure which half-track. There's just a mess. I'm not sure what's going on anymore. Everyone's fighting everyone. And no units really are being used against their optimal countering their optimal. How would you say that? Against their optimal matchup, countering that said matchup. I don't know, whatever. Yeah, the Tiger Aces are still around. This one, though, taking a nasty satchel charge to the face, is that damaged engine, and there's a veterancy-free Su-85 pounding on it. Pops some smoke to just be a little bit safer, and oh no, the Su-85 makes the mistake. Instead of attack rounding, it charges ahead, which means that it's very, very close to a lot of enemy damage sources, especially that Tiger Ace, but also the Puma outer car. Puma gets a nice smoke, but it's not going to be enough. The Tiger Ace goes down, but the veterancy-free Su-85 will follow suit in hell. So this overall, yeah, not the best position to be in if you're the Allies. In fact, it's a pretty bad position. The only thing that really went for them well was the artillery game, and that went well for the Germans as well. So it's not like they were really able to get an advantage over the Germans in terms of artillery. They were just even. And the Allies overall just kind of relinquished whatever advantages they could have had, aka infantry, aka medium tanks. And they just kind of let the Germans run over them. They let them have the initiative with their big heavies, with their big mediums. They went for some tank destroyers to try to counter them. In fact, we went with a lot of tank destroyers to try to counter them, but it didn't end up working out. Partially because they didn't have the initiative, partially because eventually they were just getting some pretty bad engagements. Overall, they got plowed in a lot of different ways. And the artillery game, they weren't able to get superiority in terms of that, despite the early kill on that Stuka. And some of the suppression work that they did on this howitzer, I'm not sure how they killed it in the end, but they did. So they did well in suppressing that, but in the end they were not able to get full superiority, and the Germans were able to destroy the entirety of the right side defensive network with artillery. They were able to use the Panzerwerfers to get a lot of wipes on the left and center, and so overall I feel like their efforts to use artillery failed, or even if they didn't fail, they just didn't win. And yeah, they were also never able to really shut down those aces as well as they perhaps should have. Tiger Ace from 47 is still around and still doing its own thing. Boom. There goes the right side fighting position. Finally, this Ostwind is still alive somehow. It's just been blazing into those American units in that whole area. And the Jacksons have been ignoring it somehow. Oh, that's because there are two Ostwinds. That's why it seemed like that Ostwind was everywhere. Anyway, third Königstiger on the field for Scorch. In the center, we have 47 with a 23 kill Panther, a 32 kill Tiger Ace, and a 49 kill Sturmpanzer Brummbär. And a few Pioneers. What is he doing with those bunkers? Looks like he's gonna build up a forward base with a medical station and a reinforcement bunker right up at the front to reinforce his Pioneer squads. And finally, the Germans are gonna capture the right side and end this torture for the Allies. They should have done this a while ago, to say the least. Well done. The Ostwind finds the retreating point and is going to just obliterate the Allied infantry. Why did he not finish them off? I have no idea. He instead decided to retreat back off. Penals, yeah, bye-bye Penals. You're probably going to get 88 in the face. AI is spamming snipers. Free snipers from the AI. Whatever. And, oh, okay. this rear line parallel battle is pretty funny. Not really quite sure what's going on, but looks like the veterancy free shock troops will go down, and 100 is actually AI now, so yeah. I feel like this is gonna be over relatively quickly. There we are, the surrender. So thank you to 47 for sending in that replay. As always, I will remind you, as I do every few casts, my email link is in the description if you want to send me your replays. If you have some good games or some games where... What the fuck? Is it supposed to look that way with the gun mantlet like very, very much turned underwards, like sideways like that? I have no idea. Anyway, if you want your replay to be casted because you, I don't know, because you think it's cool, because you want advice, whatever, my email's there. And yeah, I hope you'll send in your stuff. So I want to thank you for watching. I hope you've enjoyed. I'll see you soon, and have a nice one.